Hi there folks, welcome back to Rule of Thumb. Today I thought I would bring you along for a fun project, which is canning pickles. So I hadn't really had pickles on my radar this year because my cucumbers did not produce. No matter what Josh and I did, they just did not want to grow. They started out like gangbusters. They looked like they were going to be fantastic. We had a whole barrel of just cucumber plants. And they just, they fizzled out. So I thought, whatever, I'm just going to let it go. If I happen to come across a deal on cucumbers, I'll pick some up and I'll do pickles, but I hadn't really given it much thought. Well, this amazing guy that I work with, his name is Trevor. He is an avid gardener and he's also a canner. We talk about canning whenever we're together. So I happened to be working with him the other day and he said, hey, do you want some cucumbers? Because I have so many, I haven't been able to get to them. And I said, yes, please. So he brought me 2 full sacks of cucumbers, and that's what we're going to do today. So he gave me a couple different kinds of cucumbers and also a few peppers. I'm going to flip you guys around. I'm going to show you what we got, tell you what we're going to do with them, and take you through the process of making some delicious garlic dill kosher pickles. Yes, that's what we're going to do. So I'll bring you back in a few minutes and show you what we're working with. Okay, so this is what we're working with. So first of all, he brought me a few of these peppers, which I wasn't exactly sure at first what I was going to do with. But then I thought, as long as I'm making a pickling liquid, I might just pickle these, but in small little jars. Because then I could grab a jar, I could add it to a meatloaf, I could add it to a burger mix, I could top some chicken breast with it. And I just thought they'd be great pickled peppers. So we're going to do a little bit of those. Then he brought me a bunch of the Kirby cucumbers these are pickling cucumbers. These are specifically made for that. So these ones that are the medium to large size like this, I have some that are even a little bit bigger. These are going to get cut into spears and we're going to pickle these as spears. Then there is just a handful of the little tiny ones. These, of course, are going to go in jars by themselves and be tiny little baby dill pickles. And then he brought me some of these, which these, he said, are a Japanese cucumber. They're long and thin, and they're either low seed or seedless, I believe. So I think these are on the order of like an English cucumber. And I think what I'm going to do with these is slice these and make hamburger pickle slices out of these because they'll be small little round pickles that'll still be crunchy. So that's what I'm going to do with those. So those are the 1, 2, 3, 4 things that we're going to do out of this amazing bounty that we were blessed with. So I am going to get these washed up. Actually, Josh and I are both going to get these washed up. We're going to get them cut up, and then we will bring you back, show you how we're going to get them into the jars, what we're going to add to the jars, how to make the brine, and how to can these properly. And we'll bring you back when we're at that point. Okay, folks, I thought I'd bring you back and show you the variety of what we're going to can. So these were the smallest ones, and all I did was take the ends off of them. You should always take the ends off of the cucumbers because if you don't, they say, I don't know if there's scientific proof of this or not, but they say that's what will make a soft pickle. So I always take the ends off of mine. So I did that. Actually, we'll go this way. So these are pint-size cucumbers. So I take my cucumber, I take the end off, and I hold it up to the pint-size jar. I find out what the right height is for the pint size, and then I make myself a mark on my cutting board so I know how long it needs to be. So I'll take the ends off. If it needs to be a little shorter, then I use my slicer and I make a couple slices till I get it to the right length. These are also the slices that I got from the long, thin Japanese cucumbers. So these are all going to be hamburger slices, mini dills, pint-sized dills, quart-sized dills. I did the same thing, held it up to the jar, made sure they're the right length. And then these are those 3 peppers that we're also going to can. So now what I'm going to do is get things set up for the first batch. I have some jars heating up in my water bath canners so that they're sterilized. I'm going to get my ingredients together and bring you back and show you what we're working with and how we get them in the jars. Okay, folks, welcome back. So I tried to get everything in the field of view here. This is my water bath canner. I got my one of my big pink Tupperware bowls here. If you haven't heard me talk about these before, these are the 59 cup That's a Bowl from Tupperware that I get from my friend at Angie's Pantry. These are the best friend of a canner. It is a huge bowl. I have 2 of them. You can move stuff from one bowl to the other as you're cleaning and prepping. I love them. So I know I've talked about them before, but I really do love them. Okay, and this is what I use to make pickles. Now, you can add, change, delete, but be sure you do your research, making sure that you have made a formula that is correct for canning pickles, because you want the acidity to be correct to make them safe to can. Okay, so you want 5% vinegar, which is what I got here. I use 2 parts water to 1 part vinegar. I have canning and pickling salt. You can use kosher salt. You can use sea salt. You just don't want to use any iodized salt, which is your regular table salt. You just don't want the iodide to be in there. So when I'm doing pickles, I just go ahead and pick up a box of this because it's usually on sale, especially this time of the year. I think I got this for $1.99. So I got salt, which is apparently leaking out of the bottom of the box. I buy a pre-mixed pickling spice. This is from Gordon Food Service. You can certainly go ahead and make this yourself. Let's see if it gives me a list of ingredients here. Yeah, it just says spices, black pepper, and red pepper. There's like bay, peppercorns, mustard seeds. Oh, I don't know. I can't think of all of it off the top of my head, but you know what? It's just as easy for me to buy this. Now, the one thing, let me see if I can get this up here close. You can see a lot of times it's not thoroughly mixed. What I tend to do is dump some of this out in a bowl, and then I scoop from there when I'm putting it in the jar, so I can try and get a scoop that has a little bit of everything. So that's just a little insider tip. I went ahead and bought pre-peeled garlic. This is a premium peeled garlic. I got this at Kroger. It's just garlic, no preservatives, but I just thought I'd save myself the trouble of peeling garlic. I know, it's lazy, but that's the way I felt today. And you know what? I can do these things. I did not have dill in my garden this year, so I went ahead and bought this organically grown baby dill, so I got some of that. And then these are a dried chili pepper. I bought a bag of these years ago. These are probably 2 or 3 years old. They last forever, and I like to stick 1 or 2 of these in my jars as well. That is it. That's all there is to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get myself a big batch of vinegar, water, and salt mixed up together. So again, 2 parts water to 1 part vinegar. For every 3 cups of water, I use a heaping tablespoon of salt. That's my rule of thumb, as I say. Again, do your research. You can go up, down, sideways on that. Just make sure your formula is correct. So I'm going to mix up a big batch of that because I got lots of pickles to do, as I showed you. And then when I get the jars out of my water bath here and I'm ready to load them, I'll come back and show you how I actually load the jars. Okay, folks, we're back, and I thought I would take you through how I load one of these jars. So I got a fresh hot jar here, right out of my canner. I am going to put in, this is a quart size jar, so I'm probably going to do about 3 cloves in here. You know, maybe more if they're smaller, maybe less if they're larger. We like a garlicky pickle, so that's what I'm going to put in there. Then I'm going to take my pickling mix, try and get a nice heaping tablespoon of that in there. And then I'm going to put 1 of these chilies in the bottom. And then I'm going to grab some cucumbers. And I'm going to start putting them in the jar. Now these jars are hot. So they're a little harder to handle, but I like to work with hot jars. So sometimes I'll grab my mitt, which will make them a little easier. And I have found that if you start by tipping them on the side, it's a little easier to layer these in there. So I will start getting a jar full of these together here. And you just want to kind of try and get them in there. You don't want your jar to be, I mean, you don't want to smash your cucumbers, but you want your jar to be full. Because you don't want your cucumbers to float all over the place. I try and get some so the skin's out and some so the center is out, so it's kind of a pretty mix-up of cucumbers in the jar. So I'm getting close on this one. Alright, I might be able to get one more in there. And then that is it. Okay, so see how you go around. You know, I got a little space there. Now maybe I can get one more in there. Sure enough. So I'm going to look around, look in the center, looks good and tight, and then I will take a sprig of my dill or two. You want the nicer part of the dill so you can break off the stems, and then you want to find a place in your jar where you can tuck that down in there, because you want to be able to see the dill. That's really the key. So you want to tuck a little bit on each side. Don't be shy with the dill. I will often add dill seed to my pickles as well if I don't think there's enough dill in the jar. Just because I like a really dilly pickle. So now the other thing you can do, and sometimes I'll do this, and I probably should have with these because these are some good pickles, is sometimes I'll try and layer the dill in as I'm putting the cucumbers in. And I have found, I think, space for one more cucumber in here. Alright, so I'm actually going to grab some dill. I'm going to block your view for a minute out of my spice cabinet. And I think I'm going to add a little bit too here. So I'm going to do about a half a teaspoon of dill seed in here as well, just for a little extra dilliness. And then I'm going to put my funnel on. I've got my vinegar and water mixture here, and I'm going to get these filled up to about a half an inch of headspace. Those look beautiful. Now I'll take my little Pokey Joe, get down here. There's not a whole lot of space in here, but you still do want to, you know, get in there. Make sure you don't have any bubbles in there, any air pockets. Okay? And now the next jar I might do, trying to layer the dill in there with the pickles, because I don't feel like I got enough dill around the sides like I like it. But see, that's the beauty of making pickles, is you kind of adjust as you go. So from here, I'm going to wipe my rim, I'm going to get a lid and a ring on it, and then I'll bring you folks back and show you what they look like when they're ready to go in the canner. Okay, so we're back. This is the last jar of the quart size pickles, and I thought I'd bring you back so you could see this. I got this is how I like to have my dill, so it shows up on the side like that. I got a red pepper there, so that's kind of how I like my jars to look. I did have to fill in with some of the pint size pickles, and that's a good rule of thumb for this, is start with your biggest pickle and work your way down, because otherwise you'd have to cut some off if you started with the smaller one and you got to the end and you only had quart size pickles. then you'd have to start cutting them. This way, you can fill in with the smaller ones when you get to the last jar. And I ended up with 6 quarts. So, I'm putting this last one in my canner. I am going to bring this up to a boil, and I will process this for 15 minutes for quarts, 10 minutes for pints. So I'm going to bring these up to a rolling boil. Once they get to a rolling boil, I'll set my timer for 15 minutes. Once it is done with the 15 minutes, I will turn it off, wait for 5 minutes, and then I'll bring the jars out and I will show you the final result. Okay folks, we're back. It is actually the next day. We got kind of into the pickle process and quite honestly forgot to turn the camera back on. But needless to say, we did all of these carrots the same way. It's the same recipe for all of them. I showed you all the different sizes and shapes that we were doing. I just kind of wanted to bring you back and show you the finished product so you could get an idea of visually what they look like. So this is one of the quarts here. And you can see like the red pepper that we put in. That pickling season kind of floats throughout there. You get some of the dill on the side, the juniper berries. So it's just, you know, a visually appealing product because I think it is important for your food to be beautiful. I think it makes you want to not only eat it yourself but share it with others, which is something that's important for us. We love to share the things that we make. So we got the spears and slices. I did get a couple jars of the little mini cucumbers in there. There's a couple jars that are mixed pieces. That was like the end of a bowl. I did do the peppers that I talked about. So I don't know if you can see. The one thing I learned on this is that I should have probably blanched the peppers first. They came out okay, but I think I could have got a few more peppers and a little less liquid in the jar if I would have blanched them first. But, you know, you learn as you go along and you improve as you go along. That's the rule of thumb that I live by. So I wanted to bring you folks back so you can see the finished product. I wanted to thank my friend Trevor again for blessing us with these cucumbers that has provided, you know, an amazing bounty of product for us to not only enjoy but to share. So I wanted to bring you folks along so you could see the finished product. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Come back and see us soon. And as always, I hope you had a great day.